Genghis Khan, originally named Temujin, was born around 1062 in the rugged, windswept steppes of Mongolia, near the Onon River. His birth was marked by hardship, as the Mongolian tribes of the time were fractured and constantly at war. According to legend, Temujin was born clutching a blood clot in his fist, seen as a sign that he would become a great warrior. He belonged to the Borjigin clan, a noble but struggling family, and was the son of Yesugei, a chief of the Kamag Mongol Confederation, and Ho-Lun, a strong-willed woman who would play a key role in his early survival. When Temujin was just 9 years old, his father was poisoned by the rival Tatar tribe, leaving the family destitute. Their tribe abandoned them, and the young boy, along with his mother and siblings, lived in poverty, surviving on roots, berries, and wild game. Temujin quickly learned to hunt, endure hardship, and understand the brutal chief Tai laws of survival. Despite the struggles, Temujin was fiercely determined. At age 10, he killed his half-brother Bekta in a dispute over food and leadership, asserting his dominance early. He later formed a blood brotherhood with Jamuka, a childhood friend who would later become his bitter rival. In his teenage years, Temujin married Berta, a woman from the Conqueror tribe, whom he loved deeply. When she was kidnapped by a rival tribe, Temujin mounted a daring rescue with the help of allies, including the powerful chieftain Togrul of the Karite tribe. This act cemented his reputation as a leader and warrior. Over the next decade, Temujin began uniting the scattered Mongol tribes, offering leadership based on merit rather than noble bloodlines, promoting individuals based on loyalty and ability, a revolutionary concept at the time. Temujin was strategic in both diplomacy and warfare. He used alliances, arranged marriages, and sheer charisma to gather support. He restructured tribal systems into military units of 10, 100, and 1,000 men, ensuring loyalty to him rather than to individual tribal leaders. In 1086, he was declared Khan of the Mongols, but this provoked conflict with Jamuka, who also claimed leadership. Their first major clash ended with Temujin's defeat and the brutal execution of his followers. However, Temujin rebuilt his strength and, after several years, launched a counter-offensive. In 1206, after a decisive victory over all rivals, including Jamuka, he was proclaimed Genghis Khan, meaning universal ruler, at a great Kurultine assembly. This marked the formal beginning of the Mongol Empire, which would become the largest contiguous empire in world history. He implemented a law code called the Yasa, outlawed tribal kidnapping and theft, and protected religious freedom. From the moment he was proclaimed Genghis Khan in 1206 at the Great Kurultai, Temujin, now the universal ruler, set his sights far beyond the unification of the Mongol tribes, envisioning an empire that would stretch beyond the endless grasslands of Mongolia into the richest and most powerful states of his time. The newly unified Mongol nation was reorganized with military precision. The decimal system of organization was entrenched, every man knowing his place in units of 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000, ensuring a chain of command that was unbreakable in the chaos of battle. His legal code, the Yasa, became the backbone of governance, emphasizing loyalty, discipline, and justice, outlawing the theft of livestock, forbidding the enslavement of fellow Mongols, granting freedom of religion, and punishing betrayal with death. With internal divisions crushed and his people bound by law and loyalty, Tangut led Western Shah Kingdom in northwestern China. In 1209, he led his armies across the Gobi Desert. Genghis Khan turned his gaze outward. His first great campaign was against the formidable feat in itself given the logistical challenges, and brought the Tanguts to heel, forcing them into vassalage. This victory emboldened him to strike at the mighty Jin dynasty in northern China, ruled by the Jurchens, who had long dominated the Mongols and exacted tribute from them. In 1211, Genghis Khan launched a massive assault, deploying tens of thousands of cavalry in lightning raids that bypassed fortified cities, cutting off supply lines and forcing the Jin armies into the open, where Mongol mobility proved decisive. The Mongols adopted siege techniques from captured Chinese engineers, using catapults, siege towers, and even early forms of gunpowder weaponry. By 1215, they captured Zhongdu, sacking it and reducing the Jin to a diminished southern realm. With his eastern flank secure, Genghis turned westward toward the vast and wealthy Khwarezmian Empire, which stretched across Persia and Central Asia. Initially, He sought peaceful trade relations, sending caravans laden with goods along the Silk Road, but when the Khwarezmian governor of Otro accused the merchants of spying and executed them, followed by the shahs of Mongol envoys, modern Beijing, Genghis Khan's wrath was ignited. In 1219, he unleashed one of the most devastating campaigns in history, leading his armies across the Kizilkum Desert into Khwarezmian territory. City after city fell. Bukhara, Samarkand, Urgench, often after brutal massacres that served as warnings to others. The Mongols used psychological warfare to instill terror, spreading stories of annihilation ahead of their armies, causing many towns to surrender without a fight. Genghis's military genius shone in his use of feigned retreats, rapid mobility, and the coordination of multiple columns converging on the same target from different directions. After the Khwarezmian defeat, Mongol detachments pursued survivors as far as the Caucasus and the steppes of southern Russia, clashing with Georgian armies and even defeating a combined force of Rus and Kipchak warriors at the Battle of the Khalkha. Meanwhile, Genghis dispatched expeditions into Afghanistan and northern India, penetrating as far as the Indus River. Yet, conquest was only one facet of his ambition. Within his empire, he fostered trade and communication, establishing the Yam postal relay system, an intricate network of stations stocked with fresh horses and provisions, enabling messages and goods to travel with unprecedented speed across thousands of kilometers. He ordered a census of his people, river, in 1223, standardized weights and measures, and ensured that merchants could travel under the protection of the empire's law, ushering in what would later be known as the Pax Mongolica. Religious leaders of all faiths, Buddhist lamas, Muslim imams, Christian priests, were exempted from taxation, and Genghis often consulted shamans and foreign scholars alike. Despite his tolerance, he was ruthless toward those who defied him. Rebellion was met with swift and total destruction. In 2026, when the Western Shah, his earlier vassals, refused to provide military support for his campaigns, Genghis returned to punish them, launching another invasion that culminated in the complete destruction of their capital. It was during this campaign that he is believed to have sustained injuries, possibly from a fall from his horse, that contributed to his death in August 1227. His passing was kept a closely guarded secret until the Western Shah was utterly crushed, after which his body was transported back to Mongolia for burial in a hidden, unmarked grave, the location of which remains unknown. Legend holds that rivers were diverted to conceal the site, and all witnesses were killed, preserving the mystery for centuries. Before his death, Genghis Khan divided his empire among his sons, Jochi, Chagatai, Ogedei, and Tolui, with Ogedei designated as Great Khan to maintain unity. This division laid the groundwork